Address 192.168.50.4. 192.168.50.6. time is 8:56 p.m. IE address 192.168.50.4 192.168.50.6 Node 5, 5, the time is 8 connected. PM node 48902.
PDS. Billy, I think you're supposed to be net control tonight. That's what's on the script. Are you here? I'll wait a couple more minutes, and if there isn't an alternate net control, I'll pick up Skynet. This is N5BB. Okay, this is NBB. It appears that Billy, I just got a call from Tom, K5IC. It appears that Billy can't make it this evening, we don't think. So I'll be net control for Skynet. It's going to take me about 1 minute to get set up here, maybe slightly longer. So hang in here just a moment, and I'll start Skynet. This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. BB, November 5 Bravo Bravo. I'll be net control for Skynet, and I'm still pulling the script up. You'll have to apologize. I wasn't supposed to be net control. Give me just a moment, and I'll be back. Inside BB, Skynet.
Somebody can give me a confirmation that I'm coming through, and that I can also confirm that I'm receiving some signals. So I'll try again. If you're coming in a short time, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from.
Okay, we can hear you now, Billy. Go ahead. N5BB, go ahead.
y'all. Did y'all hear anything that I said before? Because I read the whole preamble and then went into short-time check-ins. Did anything that I say come across?
No, it did not. The first thing that came across was you looking for short-time check-ins. Everything earlier did not come through. So, sorry. But we hear you great now, N5BB. Good to hear you, Billy.
Thank you, Bill, and I'm hearing you fine now, too. I'm not sure what happened because I did nothing different than I normally do. Strange. Okay, well, let's start over. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? KSI PDF, my name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? Directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. As stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org, look for tonight's announcement, and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that too over air and Echolink. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, was up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space watches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. We've got KE5ICX, Tom, in Corpus Christi on All-Star Link. K5MCD, Cody in Dallas, radio and YouTube. KF5PDS, Billy Sherman on Echolink. N5 Lima India Golf, Dale, Dallas on Echolink. WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas on Echolink. Alpha Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel, Robert in Richardson, over air radio. November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia, Fort Worth, over air radio. W5BLT, Bill Delta 3, over air radio. And N5BB Bill in Irving, over air radio. So that's everyone that's checked in via the hot link right now. So welcome. At this time, we'll start with voice check-ins, starting with short time check-ins. So if you're going to be short time, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from this evening. check-ins. So if you're going to check in over RF, and at this time, well, I'll call for Echo Link here in a little bit, so this RF only. If you'll give me your name, call sign name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall, AG 5 p.m.
Well, 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
Acknowledge those. So AG5 PM, Rich in Rockwall. K5 JDW, John Coppell. KF5 ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch. And Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton. Welcome. Do we have any other general check-ins?
Kilo, India 5, Papa, Golf, Mike, Travis, in McKinney, KF5 PGM.
I5 PGM, Travis and McKinney, welcome. Do we have any other general check-ins? If so, come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Any other general check-ins? So this time we'll turn to Echo Link. Same request for Echo Link. If there's anyone, I see there's several folks on Echo Link that have already checked in, either via the hot link or via voice. But if there's anyone on Echo Link that still has not checked in that would like to check in via voice, I will give you extra time. So please come now with your name, call sign, and where you're transmitting from. Randy, you were the only one on Echo Link that I saw that had not, but I do see you now on the hot link check-in on the spreadsheet. KE5JIT, Randy in Corpus Christi on Echo Link. All right, welcome to all who have checked in on Skynet. All right, let's get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now with your call sign. Hearing anything, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT net, learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use and coming online. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East on that Tuesday night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. This coming Monday, check the calendar, is a 5th Monday, which gives you a surprise net. So if we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. So check in to find out what kind of net is going to be on Monday's surprise net at 7 p.m. Saturdays are the night of nets, where we keep the airwaves buzzing until midnight. Here's the lineup. TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m., Q&A on all things ham radio related. There's also a swap meet, Rookie's Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests, alternating net control each week. Skynet is from 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Astronomy, space, and space exploration are the topics. Also, news and information, satellite passages, and the constellation of the week. Join this popular net about ham's second most favorite hobby, astronomy, alternating net controls. The Afterglow movie net from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. First and third Sundays is Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just discussion. Everyone can check into this net. And daily is the ARRL net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in, as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving Whiskey Alpha 5 Charlie Kilo Foxtrot WA5 CKF repeater 146.72 megahertz 30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as promised, at 10:30 after Skynet is the Afterglow movie net. So tonight's movie is The Shape of Things to Come from 1979, the holiday reboot Jack Palance edition. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, to read his award-winning and highly accurate synopses of tonight's movie. So this is to KE5ICX from KFI PDS.
that was transmitting had zero audio. This is in 5BB. The station that just transmitted has no audio.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Tom, in 5BB.
All right, thank you. I had to flip a switch that wasn't flipped, so let me try this again. I guess it's going to be a night of gremlins. The Toronto Science Fiction Convention of 1979 had gone quite well. Barry Morris of Space 1999 fame had just come off a successful roundtable talking about his gig on that popular show. Across from him was Jack Palance, another guy who was seeing a resurgence of his career as Kal-El from Buck Rogers in the 25th century. They were having lunch before heading back into the convention center to discuss Star Trek's influence on the color Harvest Gold, the highly anticipated SF roundtable scheduled for the afternoon. But before either of them could finish their bourbon triples, they blacked out. When they awoke, both were in costumes, duct taped to some old chairs in an abandoned warehouse. A man stood in front of a bright light and could only be seen in silhouette. He spoke. "You two are my only ticket out of Toronto. I need you in my next film, The Shape of Things to Come, based on my faulty memory of H.G. Wells' story of the same name. By the way, can any of the two of you change a Canadian fiver? No one takes Canadian money, not even in Canada. Join us for one of those movies, this one filmed in Canada. H.G. Wells, The Shape of Things to Come from 1979, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Billy, KE5ICX.
Tom, and you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. So we currently have the following people checked in via the spreadsheets. Looking, I don't see any new check-ins. Do we have any additional voice check-ins? If so, please come now with your name, call sign, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power. Thank you for joining us for this evening's Skynet. Do we have any other additional check-ins? At this time, we'll move on to the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through the telescope. So this time, I will return the net to Tom, KE5ICX. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you again, Billy. This is KE5ICX. Chaz is traveling tonight, so he asked that somebody read his stuff, and I'll be reading his stuff this evening. And that includes the announcements for the Texas Astronomical Society, which I am going to do right now. January 24th, 2025 will be the next TAS meeting, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and will also be held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be TAS member Max Cornell. His topic will be the orbital light pollution. Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there would be an opportunity for live reports from the TAS public observing sessions. On the first Saturday of the month, stargazing is held in Fairview. On the second Saturday, stargazing is in Frisco. The third Saturday, it's held in Cedarville. Currently, on the fourth Saturday of the month, there is no scheduled stargazing. Tonight, there are no public observing sessions scheduled for the fifth Saturday of the month. Let's see. You can check the TAS website for additional information by going to texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Thank you. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Bill, N5BB. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Very good. Thank you, Billy. This is N5BB. I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director for the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. You can reach me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Forum, abbreviated ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida on June the 19th through the 22nd, 2025. If you want to attend, you get discounts by being a member of the National Space Society, and also for signing up early. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, January the 12th. And our speaker will be Ken Ruffin, who will make a presentation about the state of human space activities at the start of 2025. Our meetings are also available virtually via WebEx. Please contact N5BB if you would like to attend online. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. This is N5BB. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. Our last such event was last night, and we had 9 attendees. It was a lot of fun. The next Space Rendezvous event, again, this is a social event, at a restaurant, will be held on Friday, January the 31st. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, November 5 Bravo Bravo, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byrom.net. That's all I've got. Thank you very much, Billy. The last news of 2024 in 5BB.
Thank you very much, Bill. This is KFI PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And I've just found out Billy's got a regular YouTube visitor, Claudio from Chile. So welcome, Claudio. Next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours from KFI PDS.
Thanks, Billy. This is WB5OZL. Our article tonight is entitled Mysteries of Icy Ocean Worlds. As NASA's Europa Clipper embarks on its historic journey to Jupiter's icy moon, Europa, Dr. Powell Palm, a faculty member at Texas A&M University's J. Mike Walker 66 Department of Mechanical Engineering, has unveiled groundbreaking research that could transform our understanding of icy ocean worlds across the solar system. The study, published in Nature Communications, co-authored with planetary scientist Dr. Baptiste Journeau of the University of Washington, introduces a novel thermodynamic concept called syntotectic and investigates the stability of liquids in extreme conditions, critical information for determining the habitability of icy moons like Europa. The exploration of icy ocean worlds represents a new frontier in planetary science, focusing on understanding the potential for these environments to support life. Powell Palm's research addresses a fundamental question in this field: under what circumstances can liquid water remain stable on these distant frozen bodies? By defining and measuring the syntotectic, the absolute lowest temperature at which a liquid remains stable under varying pressures and concentrations, the team provides a critical framework for interpreting data from planetary exploration efforts. The study combines Palm's expertise in cryobiology, specifically the low-temperature thermodynamics of water, initially focused on medical applications like organ preservation for transplantation, with Journeau's expertise in planetary science and high-pressure water ice systems. Together, they developed a framework that bridges disciplines to tackle one of the most fascinating challenges in planetary science. The launch of the NASA Europa Clipper, the largest planetary exploration mission ever launched, we are entering a multi-decade era of exploration of cold and icy ocean worlds. Measurements from this and other missions will tell us how deep the ocean is and its composition, said Journeau. Laboratory measurements of liquid stability, and notably the lowest temperature possible, the newly defined syntotectic, combined with mission results, will allow us to fully construct habitable the cold and deep oceans of our solar system are, and also what their final fate will be when the moons or planets have cooled down entirely. The research was conducted, stand by while I reset. The work reflects Texas A&M's deep expertise in water ice systems and tradition of excellence in space research, which spans multiple disciplines. With the recent groundbreaking of the Texas A&M Space Institute, the university is poised to play an even larger role in space exploration, providing intellectual leadership for missions pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. The study of icy worlds is a particular priority for both NASA and the European Space Agency, as evidenced by the flurry of recent and upcoming spacecraft launches, said Powell Palm. We hope that Texas A&M will help to provide intellectual leadership in this space. As planetary exploration missions, such as those targeting icy moons, continue to expand our understanding of the solar system, researchers at Texas A&M and beyond prepare to analyze the wealth of data they will provide. By combining experimental studies like those conducted by Powell, Palm, and Jarneau with the findings from those missions, scientists aim to unlock the secrets of cold, ocean-bearing worlds and evaluate their potential to harbor life. This is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to Ned, this is WB5OZL.
Great, thank you very much, Brenda. This is KFI TDS. Our next up is discussion topic of the evening. So for tonight's topic, I have chosen the ESA's BepiColombo mission. BepiColombo is a European Space Agency cornerstone mission to Mercury. The mission has two components, the Mercury Planetary Orbiter, or MPO, and the Mercury Magnetospheric Orbiter, MMO, named MEO. Due to budgetary constraints, the lander portion, the Mercury surface element of the mission, was canceled. The two components were launched together on an Ariane 5 from Kourou, French Guiana, at 1:45 and 28 seconds Universal Time on October 20th, 2018. The spacecraft will have a nearly 8-year interplanetary cruise to reach Mercury orbit using solar electric propulsion and gravity assist, starting with an Earth flyby on April 10th, 2020, and flying by Venus twice. It flew by Venus October 15th, 2020, and August 11th, 2021, and Mercury 6 times, October 1st, 2021, June 23rd, 2022, June 19th, 2023, September 4th, 2024, December 1st, 2024 was its last one, and one upcoming on January 8th, 2025. In April 2024, power degradation was detected on the Mercury transfer module, resulting in a reduction of thrust from the electronic propulsion unit and an alteration in the cruise trajectory. The arrival of the Mercury and insertion into orbit has been delayed until November 21st, 2026. The spacecraft will be captured into polar orbit, which will be lowered using chemical thrusters. The MMO will then separate into their own orbits, a 400 by 1,500 kilometer, 2.3-hour period for MPO, and 400 by 12,000 kilometer, 9.2-hour period for MMO. Final orbit and payload commissioning will be completed by March 2027, and routine science operations will begin in April 2027. The nominal mission will last 1 Earth year with a possible 1 or 2-year extension. The scientific objectives for the mission are to study Mercury's form, interior structure, geology, composition, and origin, structure, and dynamics of its magnetic field, composition and dynamics of the vestigial atmosphere, test Einstein's theory of general relativity, search for asteroids sunward of Earth, and to generally study the origin and evolution of a planet close to a parent star. Collaboration on the mission is with the Japanese Space Agency, ISAS, is being discussed. ISAS might contribute the Mercury Magnetospheric Orbiter, and exchange of hardware might also be possible. The MPO and MMO spacecraft will each be driven by a solar electric propulsion module and a chemical propulsion module. The solar electric propulsion module is optimal for slow cruise maneuvers and will consist of a set of xenon ion thrusters housed in a rectangular prism powered by two GAAS solar panel wings covering 33 square meters. The panels will be progressively tilted away from the sun as the spacecraft spacecraft gets closer from 0.6 astronomical units to 0.32 astronomical units in order to provide approximately constant power, about twice the 5.5 kilowatts available at 1 AU. The Mercury Planetary Orbiter is a 357-kilogram spacecraft in the shape of a flat prism with 3 short sides slanted at 20 degrees, covered with solar cells providing 420 watts at perihelion. A radiator with an area of 1.5 square meters is mounted on one side to provide thermal control. The radiator is always pointed away from the sun and is protected by planetary IR with a 3.4 square meter shield. High efficiency insulation is also used. The MPO is a 3-axis stabilized and nadir pointing with a planned lifetime of over 1 year in Mercury orbit. The MPO carries an imaging system consisting of a wide-angle and narrow-angle camera, an infrared spectrometer, an ultraviolet spectrometer, gamma, X-ray, and neutron spectrometers, a laser altimeter, a near-Earth object telescope and detection system, and radio science experiments. MEO, the Mercury Magnetospheric Orbiter, has the shape of a flat cylinder with a mass of 165 kilograms. The MMO is spin-stabilized at 15 RPM with the spin axis perpendicular to the equator of Mercury. The top and bottom of the cylinder act as radiators with louvers for active temperature control. The side is covered with solar cells, which provide 185 watts, and second surface mirrors and protected by thermal blankets. Communications with Earth are maintained through a D-spun 1-meter diameter high-gain offset antenna and 2 medium-gain antennas operating in the X-band. Telemetry will return 160 gigabits of data per year at about 5 kilobits per second over the lifetime of the craft, which is expected to be greater than 1 year. A microstrip UHF patch antenna will be used for communication with the MSE, which is the Mercury Surface Element. So, there's some information. I won't read the whole thing, but you can go read more information about the BepiColombo mission by going to nsfccsft.nasa.gov and Google BepiColombo. Dr. Marcello Corradini is the general contact for the European Space Agency. So there's information about the BepiColombo mission, so more to come on that. So does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? If so, please come now with your call sign. Do we have any other check-ins? If so, please come now with your name, call sign, and where you're transmitting from. And we'll move on to our next segment, which is What's Up. So at this time, I will return the net to Tom, KE5ICX. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
All right, thank you, Billy. And I am playing jazz this evening, so I'll do both segments. This first one is What's Up, because it's what is going on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and in the next couple of weeks and beyond. So he says here, we have talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. But when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis will become as bright as the North Star. I can see the North Star with just my eyes with this very light polluted location in Mesquite. The club website, w5fc.org. Look for the link and you will find the video. At any rate, as he says, this was taken on Saturday, December 14th with the ZWO C-Star telescope. This thing's pretty cool, and I hope you can see the picture because that's pretty cool as well. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large that you can see them with your solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago on Skynet. Next up, speaking of the ZWOC star, I took this image of the Comet C 2023 A3T Atlas on December 11th while at Brookhaven College. Didn't try to spot the comet with binoculars nor try with a telescope, but this camera did manage to take the photograph. Next up, on December 22nd, we have a third quarter moon phase. The current phase of the moon is in the waning crescent. On December 30th, the moon will be in its new phase. On January 6th, the moon's phase will be the first quarter. On the 7th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that's closest to the Earth at a distance of 370,000 kilometers. Full moon occurs on January 13th. On the 20th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that's farthest from Earth at a distance of 404,000 kilometers. The third quarter moon is on January 21st. Now to some interesting action in the sky. We have on December 28th, the moon and Antares, the largest star in the Scorpion, are in conjunction in the southeastern morning sky. Then we have on January 3rd, the moon and Venus are in conjunction in the southwestern sky. Then on the night of January 3rd and 4th, the peak of the Quadrantids meteor shower could produce up to 120 meteors an hour. The best time to observe meteors is usually the hour before dawn because it's the side of the Earth that is running into the debris. If you want to get more information about these meteors or meteor showers, you can go to the International Meteor Association, which is IMO.net, or American Meteor Society, which is AMSmeteors.org. On January 5th, the moon and Neptune are in conjunction in the southern evening sky. You'll need a telescope to observe Neptune, the furthest solar system planet from the sun. No, it is not Jupiter, or it's not Pluto. Sorry. Next up is, says, do any of you out there in radio land, what? I hope I got this right. What did he miss when? Hold on, I must have missed something. No, that's, oh, okay. I was one slide behind. Sorry about that, kids. Next up, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill of any information, or you just have a general astronomy questions? Come now with your call sign. And since I'm not Chaz, I'll probably make something up. So if you have a question, please come now. Oh, so wise of you. So we'll give his signature parting shot. So as the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. Yes, our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next time. And he says, actually, I'll be doing another segment of Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. Billy, back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is KFI-PDS Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I will return the net to Brenda. WD5OZL, the net is yours from KFI-PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB50ZL. First up in news, Axiom's private space station is coming sooner than we thought. Axiom Space has decided to change up the method for assembling its commercial space station. By revising the order in which it will launch the station's modules to Earth orbit, Axiom Space will be able to start opening a free-flying platform as early as 2028, the Houston-based company announced this week. Axiom previously planned to start operating its private space station in 2030, so the new plan moves up the timeline by 2 years. To create a space station, Axiom plans to launch 5 modules: a payload power thermal element, an interlock, a research manufacturing hub, and a pair of habitat modules. The original plan was for Axiom to launch the Habitat 1 module to the ISS first, followed by the additional elements. Next, NASA probe makes closest ever pass by the Sun. NASA's Pioneer and Parker Solar Probe made history Tuesday, flying closer to the Sun than any other spacecraft, with its heat shield exposed to scorching temperatures topping 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit. Launched in August 2018, the spaceship is on a 7-year mission to deepen scientific understanding of our star and help forecast space weather events that can affect life on Earth. Tuesday's historic flyby should have occurred at precisely 6:53 a.m., although mission scientists will have to wait until Friday for confirmation, as they lose contact with the craft for several days due to its proximity to the Sun. But venturing into these extreme conditions, Parker has been helping scientists tackle some of the Sun's biggest mysteries: how solar wind originates, why the corona is hotter than the surface below, and how coronal mass ejections, massive clouds of plasma that hurl through space, are formed. The Christmas Eve flyby is the first of 3 record-setting close passes, with the next 2 on March 22nd and June 19 of 2025, both expected to bring the probe back to a similarly close distance from the Sun. Right now, Parker's Solar Probe is flying closer to a star than anything has ever been before. At 3.8 billion miles away, NASA official Nikki Fox said in a video on social media Tuesday morning. Christmas in space. What did you eat for Christmas dinner? If you were on the ISS, your meal would have included smoked oysters, crab, duck foie gras, I can never say that right, pate, cranberry sauce, Atlantic lobster. Stand by while I reset. Croquettes and smoked salmon. It's pretty fancy. NASA makes sure the astronauts didn't miss celebrating Christmas. So in November, they sent a shipment of food, Santa hats, presents, and decorations. They had the day off except for the required fitness activities. And I want to add that they never get a day off from that. They always have to exercise, because bad things happen to their bodies in space if they don't do that. And I also like to add that Sunita Williams, who's up there right now, was the first person to ever run a marathon on the ISS. So, Tom, think about that for your next marathon. I think you could go up there. Okay, next birthdays. John L. Finley, December 22nd, 1935. No missions, but he was in the USAF MOL Group 1. Carol J. Bobko, December 23rd, 1937, STS-6, 51D and 51J. Michael Anderson, December 25th, 1959, STS-89 and 107. Nancy Curry Gregg, December 29th, 1958, STS-57, 70, 88, and 109. Barry Butch Wilmore, December 29th, 1962, STS-129, Expedition 4142, and Boeing Cruise Flight Test, April 2024, question mark. He's up there right now, stranded, and they hope to get him down by maybe in March. Although he doesn't look like he's suffering any, I think he's enjoying it. Daniel buried December 30th, 1953, STS-72, 96, and 105. Stephen Smith, December 30th, 1958, STS-68, 82, 103, and 110. This week in space history, December 22nd, 1966, an HL-10 flight. On this day in NASA aviation in 1966, the HL-10 lifting body completes its first research flight with a landing on Rogers Dry Lake at Edwards Air Force Base, California, on December 22nd, 1966. The HL-10 suffered from buffeting and poor control during the flight. Pilot Bruce Peterson was able to make a successful landing despite the severe problems. These were traced to airflow separation from the fins. As a result, the fins were no longer able to stabilize the vehicle. A small reshaping of the fins' leading edges cured the airflow separation, but it was not until March 15, 1968, that the second HL-10 flight occurred. Stand by while I reset.
Good evening. The time is 10 p.m.
December 25th, 2021, the James Webb Space Telescope was launched. The James Webb Space Telescope was launched on an Ariane 5 rocket from Kourou, French Guiana, and arrived at the Sun-Earth L2 Lagrange point in January 2022. Discussions of a Hubble follow-on started in the 1980s, but serious planning began in the early 1990s. Assembly of the hexagonal segments of the primary mirror, which was done via robotic arm, began in November 2015 and was completed on February 3rd, 2016. The secondary mirror was installed. Final construction of the Webb telescope was completed in November 2016, after which extensive testing procedures began. In March 2018, NASA delayed the launch an additional 2 years to May 2020 after the telescope's sun shield ripped during a practice deployment and the sun shield's cables did not sufficiently tighten. In June 2018, NASA delayed the launch by an additional 10 months to March 2021 based on the assessment of the Independent Review Board convened after the failed March 2018 test deployment. The review identified that launch and deployment had 344 potential single-point failures, tasks that had no alternative or means of recovery if unsuccessful, and therefore had to succeed for the telescope to work. After construction was completed, JWST underwent final tests at a Northrop Grumman factory in Redondo Beach, California. A ship carrying the telescope left California on September 26, 2021, passed through the Panama Canal, and arrived in French Guiana on October 12, 2021. Here's a joke for you. The James Webb telescope can see so far back in time, it can see its original launch date. And I won't take credit for that joke. December 27th, 1571, Johann Kepler born. Kepler was born in Germany. He was an astronomer, mathematician, astrologer, national philosopher, and writer of music. He's a key figure in the 17th century scientific revolution and best known for his laws of planetary motion. December 27th, 1968, Apollo 8 splashdown, bringing a bright ending to a crummy year. Boy, that's the truth. Apollo 8, the first manned mission to the moon, returned safely to Earth after his historic 6-day journey with astronauts Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Anders abroad. The computer would control the re-entry, and all the crew had to do was put the spacecraft in the correct attitude with the blunt end forward. In the event of computer failure, Borman was ready to take over. 6 minutes before they hit the top of the atmosphere, the crew saw the moon rising above the Earth's horizon. Let me reset. Lost my place. Just as had been calculated by the trajectory specialist. At 30,000 feet, the drogue parachute deployed, stabilizing the spacecraft, followed at 10,000 feet by the three main parachutes. The spacecraft splashed down in the North Pacific Ocean, southwest of Hawaii. When the spacecraft hit the water, the parachutes dragged it over and left it upside down in what was termed stable to position. As they were buffeted by a 10-foot swell, Borman was sick, waiting for the three flotation balloons to right the spacecraft. About 6 minutes after splashdown, the command module was righted into a normal apex up, stable 1 orientation by its inflatable bag uprighting system. The first frogman from aircraft carrier USS Yorktown arrived 43 minutes after splashdown. 43 minutes later, the crew was safe on, 45 minutes later, the crew was safe on the flight deck of the Yorktown. All mission objectives and detailed test objectives were achieved, as well as 5 that were not originally planned. The crew was in excellent condition, and another major step toward the first lunar landing had been accomplished. Okay, that is all I have. Back to net, this is WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. This is KF5TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up, let's first pause and take a look at check-ins. Okay, everyone has been acknowledged that's over checked in on the station hot link. Is there anyone on frequency that would like to check in via voice? Or if you're on Echo Link, if now, please come now with your name, call sign, where you're transmitting from. So we'll move on to our next segment, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. At this time, I will again return the net to Tom, KE5ICX, and thank you so much for reading Chaz's segments tonight. I really do appreciate it. So again, KE5ICX from KF5TDS. The net is yours.
Thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX, and let me read the preamble here. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from the beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are around 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, of a total of 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued the tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. And this week is actually a twofer. We have Formax, the furnace, and Eridanus, the river. Formax, the furnace, is one of the more modern constellations of the southern sky, created by the French astronomer Nicolas Louis de Lacaille around 1751. He originally named it the chemical furnace, but the name has since been shortened to Formax, the furnace. Okay, now I have to read the jokes of the week. I did not make these up. These are all of Chaz's, so listen carefully. Here they are. Did you hear about the pottery furnace that exploded? All right, think about this one. It was terrible. They had to notify its next of kiln. Last winter, there was a guy that got into an argument with his furnace. You could say things got a little heated. This guy's furnace broke down on him, so he threw a housewarming party. This guy fell in a winter in Egypt last week, but in a river in Egypt last week, but swears he didn't. He's in the Nile. We notice we moved to the other constellation. Two hillbillies were on the opposite riverbanks. One hollered, "How do I get to the other side?" And the other one hollered back, "You're on the other side." You get that one. Why does a river have a lot of money? That's an easy one. Come on, everybody, together. It has two banks. All right, let's talk about the stars in Formax. We have Alpha Formaxis is the brightest star in Formax. Alpha Formaxis shines at a magnitude of 3.8 and is the only star in Formax brighter than a fourth magnitude. Alpha Formaxis has two proper names associated with it, Dalam and Furnassus. It is a binary star. The combination star Furnassus B shines at about magnitude 7 and is separated by 5 arc seconds. It takes about 300 years to complete an orbit. In the telescope, Alpha Furnassus looks white and yellow-white, and there are 5 or 6 other stars in that field of view. On to deep sky objects. We got NGC 1360. Dave Hutchison's notes in the COTM article about Fornax. Everyone who observes this planetary nebula wonders why this object is not more well known. It is a large object and not one of the typical smaller planetary nebulae that look like stars at first glance. NGC 1360 is large enough and bright enough that it can be seen with a 60-millimeter refractor and has been observed with instruments that are slightly smaller than that. The late Walter Scott Houston, in his Deep Sky Wonders column, called it a fantastic Fornax planetary. Okay, here's the Great Void. We have Hubble Ultra Deep Field was taken in what looks like from Earth as an area void of anything. Dave Hutchison pointed his telescope at the region of the Hubble Ultra Deep Field and saw nothing. However, Dave notes that today's amateur astronomers are seeing astronomical objects that would have been considered impossible 20 or 30 years ago, and they are producing remarkable photographs of objects that rival or even exceed those produced by large observatories or space probes from not so long ago. Quoting from the article, our challenge now is to see what amateurs can show 20 years from now in this small corner of space. Okay, we're moving on to the constellation of Eridanus, which has been associated with various rivers on Earth, including the Euphrates, the Nile, and particularly the Padus, which is known today as the Po River in Italy. The river Eridanus is what the ancient Greeks called the Po River in mythology. It is associated with the tragic story of the Phantom and the mortal son of the sun god Helios. Phantom asked Helios to allow him to drive the chariot of the sun for a single day, a wish that Helios reluctantly granted. Phaethon lost control of the chariot and passed too close to the earth, setting whole mountain ranges ablaze. Zeus had to intervene to save the earth from destruction with a well-placed lightning bolt. Phaethon's blazing body fell from the chariot into the Eridanus River, and the waters of which quenched the flames. He was killed, but Earth was saved. Now on to the stars. We have Epsilon Eridani is an interesting star on several levels. For one thing, it is one of the nearest naked eye suns or stars to the naked to the sun. With Epsilon about 10.5 light years away among the naked eye stars, only Alpha Centauri system and Sirius are closer. Secondly, it is comparable to our star in spectral type and luminosity. And finally, astronomers believe that there is a Jupiter-sized extrasolar planet in orbit around it, making Epsilon one of the nearest stars in our solar system known to have planets. The planet takes several years to orbit Epsilon at an average distance of 3.4 astronomical units. Akamar, or sometimes called Alpha Arandei, means the star at the end of the river, and that's exactly where Akamar is, at the extreme southern end of the constellation. Akamar is a magnitude of 0.53. It is a blue-white giant star of spectral type B. It is about 120 light years away. You may be wondering why such a bright and easily visible naked-eye star would be called a challenge object. Well, the challenge is to travel far enough south to see it, as Akamar cannot be seen from Dallas or from most of the United States. It is visible from Florida and the southern parts of Texas, the Gulf Coast, and of course from Hawaii. It can be seen from the Davis Mountains and Big Bend regions of Texas on autumn evenings. Unfortunately, it cannot be seen during the Texas Star Party, since the sun is up at the same time as Akamar during that time of the year. I understand it can be seen from the El Dorado Star Party, since it is up in the early morning hours before dawn during the time of year that the El Dorado Star Party is held. Sky objects, we have NGC 1291, which is an unusual galaxy. It looks somewhat like a spiral, except it appears that the spiral arms have been separated from the nucleus, forming a ring around the nucleus with a sizable gap between the nucleus and the ring. NGC 1535, which is a planetary nebula known as Cleopatra's Eye. The Astronomical League Guidebook Observe the Herschel Objects describes this nebula as a small, circular, and almost stellar with its definite blue tint. Dave Hutchinson recommends a large aperture telescope for viewing this object, as well as taking some time to observe it to give yourself time to make out some of the details. Walter Scott Houston's notes about NGC 1535 were in close agreement to David's. There are more Astronomical League observing programs and objects in the constellation of Formax the Furnace and Eridanus the River. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has at least, last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which which have 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and PIN in about a year. This ends Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week about Fornax the Furnace and Eridanus, which I can never say, the river. And he says, I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that he's used, borrowed, and stolen for every Skynet. At times, he also uses the website constellationguide.com for information. Next week, we'll take a look at Perseus the hero and Camelopardalis the giraffe. You try and say that. Boy, there's a lot of letters. Vowels, too. Okay, back to you, Billy. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you so much, Tom. This is KF5PDF Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, I just want to pause for a moment and see if we have any other check-ins. Looking on the hot link sheet, I don't see any additional check-ins there. But if we do have someone over voice that would like to check into this evening's net, please come now with your name, call sign, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Juliet 5, Hotel X-Ray Sierra, Ari in Garland.
Kilo Oscar 4, Whiskey Charlie X-Ray, Paul in North Carolina.
Okay, I've got the first call sign, Kilo Juliet 5, Hotel X-Ray Sierra, Ari, and Garland. But I did not catch, I believe it was Paul. I did not catch your call sign or location at all. If you could please come again a little more slowly. It was just coming in and out. It was intermittent. So if you would check in again, please, Paul.
This is Kilo Oscar 4, Whiskey Charlie X-Ray, Paul in North Carolina.
I got it that time. Kilo Oscar 4, Whiskey Charlie X-Ray, Paul in North Carolina. All right, welcome to this evening's Skynet. Do we have any other check-ins that would like to check in via voice for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your name, call sign, and where you're transmitting from. So welcome, Marian Paul, to Skynet. All right, next up is space launches for the week and visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Both are handled by Tom. So at this time, I'll turn the net back over to Tom, KE5ICX. If you want to go ahead and do those two segments consecutively, that would be awesome, from KF5PDS.
All right, thank you again, Billy. Boy, I hope my voice holds out. This information comes from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. We have on December 29th, Falcon 9 launch scheduled. This would be Astronomy from One to Many is the name of this mission. This will launch at midnight. Let's see here. SLC-40 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This will launch 4 communication satellites for the Astronomy project. Satellites are destined for geostationary orbit. The Falcon 9 first stage will land on a drone ship called a Shortfall of Gravitas. That's a new landing drone ship. Okay. Next up, we have New Glenn 1. This one we've talked about before, which will launch the Blue Ring spacecraft, which is capable of both hosting and deploying multiple payloads. The Blue Origin will attempt to land on the first stage booster on its sea-based landing platform, Jacqueline. That should be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to this inaugural mission. Then there'll be a New Glenn mission in the spring, also launching from Launch Complex 36. This will launch 2 identical spacecraft, the Escape and Plaza Acceleration and Dynamics mission, or ESCAPADE. The 2 satellites named Blue and Gold will make a roughly 11-month journey to Mars, where they will perform about an 11-month science mission while orbiting the planet. Blue and Gold were manufactured by Rocket Lab over the last 3.5 years and carry science experiments from the University of California at Berkeley. Next up will be a Vulcan Centaur launch. This to be determined with Dream Chaser 1. There's been some updates on that. They continue to work on the spacecraft for this mission. Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Cape Canaveral. The Vulcan Centaur rocket will launch on its second demonstration flight with Sierra Space Dream Chaser cargo vehicle for the International Space Station. Dream Chaser is a lifting body resupply spacecraft. They'll launch on top of a rocket and land on a runway. It will be the Dream Chaser's first flight into space. Now, on to satellite passages. We have the ISS has a couple of passes that are pretty good. We have one on January 2nd. This one will be a minus 2.8 magnitude. This will be at 6:15 in the morning. It'll reach its highest point at 6:17 at 41 degrees, and it'll fall to the northeast at 6:20. Then we have on January 3rd, minus 1.6 magnitude. This one also in the morning at 5:29 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 22 degrees at 5:29. This is coming out of shadow, by the way, and then it'll fall to the east at 5:31. Then we have a January 4th. Boy, I didn't put those in. I wonder why I didn't. I must have looked at it strangely. Let me check something here real quick. Oh, yeah, okay. The info's correct. I just picked some of the wrong ones. Another good pass will be January 4th, minus 3.6 magnitude at 6:15. Out of the west-northwest, reaches highest point at 54 degrees at 6:16. It'll fall to 6:19 and to the south-southeast. And then finally, let's see here. We have Tiangong, which is the Chinese space station. Let me see if I can get to it here in my thing. It's got some fairly decent passes. We have on December 28th, minus 1.4. Well, that's tonight. Forget that. Scratch that. That's already happened. Next good pass will be December 30th, minus 2.2 magnitude at 18:23 in the evening. It reaches highest point at 83 degrees at 18:27, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 18:29. And we have another pass on the 31st. This is minus 1.0 magnitude at 19:01, reaches highest point at 32 degrees, and it'll fall to the north at 19:04. And I'll give you one more here, January 1, minus 1.6 magnitude. It'll be at 18:01 in the evening. Out of the west-southwest, reaches highest point at 51 degrees at 18:04, and it'll fall to the northeast at 18:07. And there you have it. Those are all the decent passes for the two space stations. Back to you, Billy, of KE5ICX.
This is KFI-TDS. All right, are there any checked-in stations with any remarks or questions, or does anyone need any fills? If so, please come now with your call sign. Do we have any final check-ins? This is last call for check-ins. Looking at the website check-in list, I don't see any new check-ins there. But is there anyone on RF that would like to, or Echolink, that would like to check in, get in the count for this evening's net? Again, last call for check-ins. Please come now with your name, call sign, and where you're transmitting from. Hearing any. So tonight we had 18 hymns plus our regular Claudio over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Claudio, for joining, participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net controls stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video. Going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5's PDF, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:28 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening the universe. And remember, coming up here shortly for the Afterglow Movie Net discussion on the shape of things to come. 73, everybody.
Thank you, Billy, for doing the net this evening, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. That's plenty of time to go make some popcorn. So come back in 5 minutes, and we'll be talking about the shape of things to come, or whatever this thing was we watched. KE5 ICX.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and this is what we call the Afterglow Movie Net. Every week we watch a movie, and either together or separately, and then after Skynet we discuss it. And just when we think we can't get any lower, we have found a new low for a movie. And tonight we've got The Shape of Things to Come. It was supposed to be based on a H.G. Wells movie. It wasn't. I have not been able to find a Wikipedia, an actual synopsis of this. K5ICX, have you seen anything like that?
Yes, I'll send you the link right now.
Thank you. Okay, H.G. Wells is supposedly The Shape of Things to Come. Is a 1979 Canadian science fiction film directed by George McCowan and starring Jack Palance, Gary Morris, Nicholas Campbell, Anne-Marie Martin, Carol Lindley, and John Ireland. Although credited as an adaptation of H.G. Wells' novel of the same name, the film takes only its title and some character names from the 1933 novel. The film's plot has no relationship to the events of the book. The book and its 1936 film adaptation, Things to Come, predict events such as the Second World War and the collapse of social order until a world state is formed, whereas the 1979 film involves a high-tech future involving robots and spaceships. The film was an attempt to capitalize on the popularity of such recent successes as Star Wars and the TV series such as Space 1999, Battlestar Galactica, and Star Trek, although the film had only a fraction of the production budget of any of those. In the future, Earth is recovering from the devastating robot wars. Most of humanity lives on the moon in a domed city called New Washington. They depend on the anti-radiation drug Radic Q2 from the distant planet Delta 3. A cargo ship carrying the drug crashes into the dome with disastrous results. The colony leader, Senator Smedley, and science advisor Dr. John Cabal try to contact Nikki, the leader of Delta 3. They find that Omus, the robot master, also Cabal's former apprentice, has declared himself emperor. Having crashed the cargo ship on purpose, Omus demands the colony's obedience or else he will invade with robots. Smedley refuses to comply. Cabal suggests launching an armed advanced starship called the Starstreak. Omus says that the ship has yet to be tested. Cabal boards regardless and before launch exposes himself to deadly radiation from the ship's nuclear reactor room while making urgent repairs. With no time left to obtain radiation drugs and without telling anyone, Cabal calls for his son Jason to help him pilot the ship. Tagging along are Smedley's daughter Kim and Sparks. The teleporting pilot wrote from the cargo ship. They steal the Starstreak and head to Delta 3. Stand by while I reset. While in space, a malfunction forces a Starstreak to stop at Earth. While Cabal conducts repairs, Jason and Kim explore in hopes of locating Cabal's friend Charlie, Small figures stalk them in the woods. Jason finds Charlie dead. Kim has disappeared. Jason and Sparks find her with a group of harmless children who survived the robot wars and who are in dire need of Radic Q2. The group leaves the kids behind with food but promises to return once their mission is complete. On Delta 3, Nikki has formed a resistance force. They will try to retake the planet Citadelmus and his robots. The Starstreak enters the dangerous gravity vortex in space. The crew escape the storm. Delta 3 conveniently appears before them. On the planet, the crew finds Nikki and her people. Robots surround the heroes. A hologram of Almas appears. He has Cabal brought before him. Jason and the others sneak inside the Citadel. Almas shows off his latest achievements to his old mentor. He turned the mining robots into shock troopers. Unimpressed, Cabal tries to talk Almas into giving up his plan to control humanity. Almas refuses to listen. He dons a transparent helmet where he shows Cabal another creation, a spinning disco ball-like device that drives Cabal mad with pain and then kills him. At Almas's chambers, Jason finds his father murdered. Nikki reveals that Cabal had severe radiation sickness and was terminally ill, but it was Almas's device that actually killed him. Furious, Jason confronts Almas, whose robots take him prisoner thanks to Sparks. All the robots turn on their master and run out of control. Jason and the others flee the control room. Sparks is teleported to one of Almas's cargo ships and taken over the main computer system. The robot frenzy overloads critical systems and explosions rip through the Citadel. Sparks escapes in the cargo ship. The others make it back to the Starstreak and lift off. Almas sits in his control room as the Citadel explodes around him. The destruction of the Citadel causes the whole planet to explode. The last scene shows two ships returning to Earth with a cargo ship hauling a supply of Radic Q2. Enchanting. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do check-ins. Give me your name and your call sign and whether or not you saw this movie. And we'll do 3 rounds. The first being the plot, what you thought about the plot or lack of one. The second, the characterization and characters. And third, special effects, or whatever else you want. Stand by. Okay, we'll take regular check-ins first. Please come down.
Yes, I saw the movie.
November Victor 5, Fox, Virginia. I saw the movie.
Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall. I saw up to the point the robot crashed the cargo ship into the city.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Whiskey, Jane Weatherford. I think I've seen it. There's a part in the middle I may not have yet seen. I know I've seen the end of it. I caught it, the end of it one day, and anyway, kind of slept since then. Anyway, thank you, Bobby.
This is Whiskey 5. bi-locational transference, W5BLT on Delta 3, and based on your description, I think I better get off there soon. Yes, I saw this fine movie, Bill in Garland.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom in Corpus. Oh, yes, I saw this thing.
Well, we got a good, healthy bunch who admit to seeing this thing. N5BB, Bill. NB5F, Virginia. AG5PM, Rich. KG5BZWJ. W5BLT, Bill. KE5ICX, Tom. Yes, everybody admitted to seeing it. And so did I. Do we have anybody on Echolink now? Great, well, let's get going. First up, N5BB Bill, what did you think about the plot?
Well, thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. Well, as has been commented, the plot had nothing, zero to do with anything written by H.G. Wells or the movie that was made in the late 30s based on the H.G. Wells book. This was just a teaser title for the movie to make you think it was based on something by H.G. Wells. False advertising. Oh, man. Somebody in the movie industry ought to have fined that company for doing that. They could find a way of doing that, blacklisted them or something. Anyway, the plot was pretty goofy. We don't really hear very much about why they got to the moon. We only hear a little bit about the humans still left on the Earth. We don't really understand why there's so much radiation problems right now on the moon. I mean, it sounds excessive compared to, the normal radiation that we would get now. So, no real explanation of that. And the worst thing is there's no explanation about this planet Delta 3, which is at some significant distance from the moon. Where is this planet? I mean, they act like it's in our solar system. Is it like Planet X? It didn't seem to be cold. It seemed to have an Earth-like atmosphere, and so I don't understand. Where did Delta 3 come from? This is just a made-up thing. Very bad science fiction. It's just fiction. It's just alternative universe, maybe. Let's see. I'll comment, I guess, later about the state of technology shown, the production values, because they weren't very good at predicting the future. Everything they showed in the plot there, everything they demonstrated, nearly everything, was current 1979 technology. In fact, it was old technology. The only thing that seemed to be greater was this humongous spaceship, which they somehow built without huge facilities on the moon. Don't know how they did that. And that used nuclear power and could go at nearly the speed of light, which also made no sense. Because at one point they were talking about supposedly they were talking about a time slowdown, a time warp or something due to their advanced speed. The other things in the plot bothered me. This weird gravity thing, which caused them to have to spend a lot of energy to get out of it. No explanation. Just didn't make no sense at all. I mean, as we all know, gravity is caused by matter. They weren't near a massive body. It's like there's a black hole in the middle of nowhere or something doing this. They didn't even know about black holes in 1779, not very much. So I don't know. This didn't make any sense at all. So again, these are simply plot devices thrown in that weren't scientific. They were just there for the effect. The robots were pretty stupid. I'll comment more later, but all I'll say now is they look like these Robbie the robots, and when they walked around, the sides. I'm sorry. Horrible, horrible, horrible. They can do that in one movie, but not all these movies. Another thing that bothered me is as they're on their way away from the moon, the robot says it's going to take us 600 hours to get to the Earth. That's 600 hours. Work that out in days. That's incredibly slow. Well, later, they're going at evidently near light speed to go toward this other planet, Delta 3. I don't know. This makes no sense. What else about the movie? About the plot. Again, the robot was the funny robot. Of course, they were looking at Star Wars and things like Space 1999 and other kind of movies of the late 70s ilk, and throwing in all these stupid things to try to be like those other movies, but they didn't do a very good job at doing it. I've got so many things written down, but one last thing, Omus, of course he has to have one name. Villains always have one name, right? Omus, the Jack Palance character, he spoke in a very stilted, stereotypical evil villain thing. He sounded like a bad James Bond character. And he wore this uniform with a purple cape. Oh, come on. One last thing that I don't know if it's plot or not. The women, especially which women? Not Kim, but Nikki. She wore moderate high-heel shoes as she's running around. That's not very practical in 5BB. More later.
Thank you, Bill. Virginia, November Victor 5 Foxtrot. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Well, my plot musings are probably going to be even less coherent. This movie, I think the plot was fairly simple, but for some reason it was hard to follow. They were just squeezing in so much ideas that were ripped off from other science fiction movies that it, to me, and I'll admit I fell asleep a little ways through this and then woke up around the end. So I wasn't that engrossed by this plot. And it was a pretty standard bad guy who's bad just because he's bad, and they have to go on a quest to get something, and there's no scientific physics of any sort involved. There's cheesy robots, and it looks like they had like one filming location for two different planets, both of which appeared to be really in real life on Earth. It was super cheesy. I think it was supposed to be just light and simple and kind of fun, but just serious enough to maybe be dramatic enough for people to want to... There was one part where some guy, like, gets killed, and it was kind of scary and gross, and that seemed a little out of place for the sort of overall melodrama and broadness of this plot, which was a standard science fiction quest in outer space, which, you know, things that are, like, over the top and don't scientifically make sense are fine if the plot's interesting. I mean, Star Wars is a very good example of that, and of course a lot of people in the late 70s and early 80s tried to copy Star Wars, and they didn't really have a good overall feel or theme to what they were doing, so it just didn't hold together very well, and it was obviously such an obvious ripoff that it didn't work. And this movie was no exception to that. It was obviously ripping off Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers and Star Wars and anything around that era, and even Lost in Space. So the plot was just kind of boring and not very coherent, and not very engaging, and of course, you know, not scientifically very sound either. But like I said, if everything else is pretty good, then that doesn't really matter as much. With this is, I'd say this is more science fantasy like Star Wars. It wasn't supposed to be like somehow scientifically accurate. I think Delta 3 was supposed to be outside the solar system, and they had to go through some kind of a hyper space kind of a deal to get there. But they didn't make certain things very clear, even the bad guy and what his deal was. So, yeah, not very good in B5F.
Thank you, Virginia. AG5 PM, Rich, tell us what you think about the plot of our fine film.
Well, thank you. As I said earlier, I watched up through the point where the robot crashed the spaceship, the cargo ship into the city. And I loved Space 1999. I have the DVDs. Yeah, Battlestar Galactica, yeah, Lost in Space, all that. I watched all that stuff, so I'm a big fan. I snuck into Star Wars because I think I was a year too young, but nobody cared. Anyway, break. Had to take a breath. Right off the bat, one of the characters I infer as a bad guy was Victor from, I think, Space 1999. So right there you got Space 1999 going on, and And I gathered from watching what I saw that this was like a false flag event. This guy's trying to talk the honcho into his program to build a battleship or something. And then now no one thinks they need it, and now we've got a cargo ship piloted by a rogue robot crashing into the city. So I took it as that. And I didn't see beyond that, but I assumed that was the setup, right? And then the radiation I wrote off is no magnetic field and atmosphere to shield the solar rays, I guess, or maybe like in Space 1999, all their nuclear storage facilities exploded, except they didn't blow off out of orbit. The tech was definitely sort of a hybrid of Space 1999, Galacta, all that old. I think I worked on some of those terminals when I worked at Bell Labs. Anyway, and then the robot was cheesy. They could have done way better on the robot. I mean, come on, 1950s, Robbie the Robot, all that. Forbidden Planet, way better, right? But the spaceship wasn't too bad. I actually thought that was halfway decent. But anyway, I didn't see beyond that, so I'll just have to stay tuned and learn from this esteemed group. AG 5 p.m. Back to that.
Good evening. The time is 11 p.m.
Thank you, Rich. KG5BZW, Jay, what did you think?
This is KG5BZW. I saw the MST3K version. Really, I'm just going by the fact that it was the MST3K version. Now, granted, I was kind of tired when I started watching. I was falling asleep. Even they couldn't say that. And I did catch the end of it just because, I don't know, Jack Palance was, started, famous actor, kind of famous. And, yeah, the ending, there wasn't much to it either. And in fact, there's just not much I can say about the plot. I don't know. It exists, and that's that. I have to admit, being that I did kind of fall asleep watching MSD my last attempt. I don't have a cohesive view regardless. Not that there was anything cohesive about this that you could have, but I don't know. I have no comments. In fact, I'm more here just to hear other people's comments on the thing. There's a lot of stuff thrown together. That's as others have said. KG5HW.
Thank you, Jay. Next up, W5BLT Bill. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Brenda, again. And Brenda, I want to thank you for recommending this fine film. I was initially going to be disappointed with this because it did not follow H.G. Wells' book or the movie from the 30s, which I absolutely love H.G. Wells stuff and grew up with it as a kid. And I don't know how I missed this movie as a kid. And my disappointment turned to joy when Sparks did the locational transference, the BLT, and so I love this plot of the movie. It's the traditional plot. Evil person feels disrespected, and he wants to make everybody respect him. And you have the ship that was with the robot pilot. I think it was Sparks that he crashed into the moon, and they managed to salvage him, and he turned good. And so you had that there, and then you had the ship, when they were going from the moon to the Earth, they had to go make repairs. So I don't know if that counted for them being slow. And of course, the reference they had to the black hole, Disney had a movie in, I think it was December, somewhere around there in 1979, called The Black Hole. That one's such a great movie too, if you want to watch that. But yeah, no, I just thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Had a lot of stuff thrown in together, and they managed to defeat the evil leader on the Delta 3. The other thing is that Dad, trying to remember if that was Jason or Jason's father, goes in and repairs the ship. He knows that he's going to get radiation. They don't have the drug to treat him, and he knows that, but he's willing to sacrifice himself to make sure the ship can get to Delta 3 and they can defeat the evil leader. And so there's sacrifice there. So it was a wonderful movie. I absolutely loved it, and it is on the top of my list of movies to put in. Back to you, Brenda. Thanks again for doing that. W5 BLT, W5 bilocational transference. Back to net control.
Thank you, Bill. And KE5ICX. So what did you think about this plot?
Oh, Brenda, this movie, we had Star Wars that came out in '77, and it had great special effects. We had 2001: A Space Odyssey, we always bring up, from 1968, beautiful special effects. We had Battlestar Galactica that came out, TV series that had really good special effects. We even had Star Trek from 1966 with its cardboard sets, had not bad special effects. And then this thing comes along, and we had terrible special effects. Although I have to say, and I mentioned it last night while we were doing the thing, the spacecraft looks like it was made from the K-7 space station model from AMT. I'm pretty sure it did. So maybe there's a little bit of a Star Trek influence there. So what does that do when you're trying to watch something on screen? It's the 555-1212 telephone number. It telegraphs sleazy, cheesy, and not believable. I bring this up now because I think even, you've got to take the time period and say, all right, are you going to take your subject matter seriously? World building is difficult to do, first and foremost. So you've got to be able to create something that looks at least halfway credible in some way, shape, or form. Now, they had no budget, but I don't think they had any heart in making this thing either, so it did not look very good in the end. Nobody really took it seriously, to me. So that's part of the problem. Now, to create science fiction, you got to give it something that some sort of gravitas. There is none of that. So you throw that away immediately. You've got no way of of redeeming a film. You've got the dorky little robots running around looking like they're going to topple over at any second. These are the evil aliens. They're going to stop us from, stop humans and knock them down. And they won the war and all of that, but they look like cardboard. Doesn't help very much. And then we got the cute little robot, and it's sitting there and doing the transfer, the thing that Bill was talking about. Why? How? What does that mean? What is it doing? How did it learn this? And why did everybody not care to even talk about it? I mean, I might have fallen asleep during the movie, but did that ability to transport, dematerialize, and materialize ever get used anywhere in the story? I don't know. But let's see. So there's that. One of the plot points that drove me nuts is that they've got this stuff. What do they call it? This Radic Q2. This Radic Q2. It's made on Delta 3 or whatever the name of the planet is, Delta 3. And it got blown up, and they have one supply on the freighter that they're taking back to Earth, or back to the moon. Don't they need this stuff for the kids that they left behind? And don't they need it for people on the moon? Their supply is gone because the planet blew up. The planet blew up. That didn't make any sense either, but okay, so the planet blew up, and there's no supply anymore, but nobody seems to care. And we brought everybody back home, so the people that mine the stuff, they're not there anymore. So everybody's going to die. Everybody on the moon is going to die. And probably deservedly so for being so stupid. I didn't understand what the heck it was going through the thing. I went through some sort of a galactic thing. I hope I'm not mixing it up with another movie. It could be. I don't know. Did they go through some sort of a wormhole or something? I don't remember. At any rate, what else can I say? Not much. I guess we can talk about the kids and all that on the next round. So it ends and everybody's doomed, I guess. Terrible movie. Terrible. Terrible. Did I mention it was terrible? Back to you, Brenda. KE5I6.
Okay, before I put in my 2 cents worth, do we have any more check-ins? Okay, this is WB5OZL. You know, the title, The Shape of Things to Come, makes it sound like some kind of prophetic movie to show what life is going to be like someday. And it was just another hack story. You could have, it could have been set anywhere and just changed the costumes. The dialogue would fit in many places. It's an old, evil, crazy guy wants to be a dictator, and then our wonderful heroes have to defeat him. So, it's not very original at all. And I'd like to see the original one that is based on H.G. Wells' novel and see what they did with it. But this was it was trite. It was beneath us. It was so silly. And I did not pick out this movie, by the way. I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like I lost some IQ points watching this thing. It's just so unbelievably stupid and trivial and pathetic. But that's what happens. I think it had a fairly low budget, and but I think it suffers from the syndrome where people are sitting around and go, yeah, so-and-so made some money, let's make a movie like that. And they don't know what they're doing. Kind of had that feeling about this. All right, any more check-ins?
November 5, Sierra, Quebec Alpha.
November 5, Sierra, Quebec Alpha. Did you see the movie, The Shape of Things to Come, and would you like to comment on it? And I assume your name is still Ron.
My wife confirms that my name is still Ron. I did not see the movie, but I've been copying the mail here for about the past 20 minutes, and it sounds like a horrible movie. But just wanted to check in for your count. N5SQA.
Thanks, Ron. It was indeed a horrible movie. It was horrible in every way except had great hairstyles. I will say that. It's just as they could only do in the 70s. I don't know why they can't find that recipe again, because that was the apex of big hair. All right, next, N5BB Bill. What did you think about the characterization?
Oh boy, thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. First, to answer Tom's question, yes, they did use the bilateral teleportation. They did use the teleportation. Sparks, or Sparky, whatever the name of the robot was, he at one point moved from their flying saucer craft to the, he actually moved from the big spacecraft that was in orbit around Delta 3 down to the flying saucer-like craft and back again. So yes, he did that. I don't understand. I mean, could he have done this between the moon and Delta 3 directly? They didn't tell us. It's not scientific. It was a little special effect thing they could easily do, and they thought it was cool. But it looked goofy. There's no explanation of it. And why could only one robot do it? Other robots couldn't do it. Humans couldn't do it. Spacecraft couldn't do it. Nobody on the moon could do it until that robot was there. It made no sense at all. Let's see. Characterization. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Omus, who is the Jack Palance evil guy character, was so stereotypical it was silly. He was, what's the character in Flash Gordon? Is it Manga or whatever the evil character is in Flash Gordon? Incarnate. He was Dr. Evil in those movies. He was the worst of the James Bond villains. He tells you what he's going to do before he does it. For no reason. It's like he's getting ready to kill you and he's describing why he's going to kill you. Why do that? The person's going to be dead anyway. The silliest part of what he did was to push the destruct button. Why would somebody have a destruct button sitting out there open on the table? And by the way, who built all those robots and all that manufacturing plant he showed us pictures of on Omega 3? I mean, Delta 3. Were humans do that? Who knows? So I think that was a shortage of budget. By the way, why was that spacecraft so huge? The the people that were in it were only in that little tiny saucer thing on the front. The rest of the spacecraft was just humongous and did nothing useful that we could see. Anyway, be that as it may. Go through the characters. Again, Omus Jack Palance was horrible, and it was a comic book character, but this wasn't really a comic book movie, so it didn't make any sense. The woman that he replaced, who was the governor of Delta 3, was Nikki. I don't think there's a last name. She was played by Carol Lindley, who was a rather famous actress back then, and had a moderately extended career, and was also a model. And so I thought, well, Jack Palance playing Omus, he did what he was supposed to do. He spoke his lines. He looked evil. He did all what he was required to do. Face, he's got that face, and he does the Jack Palance walk and does the Jack Palance talk. So he followed through, but again, stupid plot, but he went through the motions. I thought that I kind of liked Nikki. Everybody liked Nikki, and I thought she did a good job. The leader of the opposition trying to get control back on Delta 3. Dr. Cabell, who is Barry Morse, this was the scientist whose kid was also in the movie, supposedly. His son, he appeared to be very, very, very butt-headed. He was going to launch that spacecraft no matter who told him not to do it. And he somehow got other people to follow him without argument, which is weird. But he also was so butt-headed that even though he had all this radiation damage, he refused to get treated or worry with it. So I thought that was a little over the top. In fact, it was very over the top. But I think he was believable. Again, I don't like the way the character is written, but I think that Barry Morse, did an okay job in acting. Senator Smedley, what a name, Senator Smedley. This is in Habibi. Senator Smedley was John Ireland, he looked like the right character for the plot. I think they characterized that okay, and he was against some things that Dr. Cabell was going to do. That was okay. I'm trying to find my notes here. What does this mean? Well, I forgot who this character was. Kim, though, was she was the person kind of in charge on the moon, and she left to go on the spacecraft with him. She was very energetic, running around doing things, and her name, her acting nickname was Eddie Benton. Her birth name was Edmonda Benton, and she also had a significant career. She married author Michael Crichton. Can you believe that? In 1987. So less than a decade after this film was made, she married Michael Crichton, and she co-wrote the 1996 film Twister with Michael Crichton. Supposedly, she also was auditioned as Princess Leia for Star Wars, but Carrie Fisher won it. So anyway, these are reasonable actors, and I think all of them those actors did a reasonable job. I just didn't like the whole plot of the movie, and the fact that it was kind of cartoonish and kind of copied. Closest thing I can think of, the robot was nearly like the Fido-Dido kind of robot. Comical, they could do jokes with him. He traveled around and wouldn't leave Kim. He wanted to follow behind her. I'm sorry. Not much of a science fiction movie. I guess that's what I have for the characterization. Sorry to be so long. N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Virginia, NV5F, please tell us what you think about the characterization.
Thank you, Brenda. Well, after what Bill just said, it was very detailed, and it ended with a very interesting story. And the reason I'm going to skip characterization because I think this is really wild. While Bill was talking, I was reading a little bit in a book that I bought a couple weeks ago. It's by a guy named John Huckert. It's called All These Worlds Are Yours, and the reason it's called that is because John Huckert was an intern on the set of 2010. And it's got a very interesting epilogue, which is all of the times and all of the tries and attempts he made in the 40 years since working on 2010 as a directing intern for the AFI and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. He has tried and failed to make it in Hollywood. Well, while Bill was talking about Michael Crichton, I was reading this paragraph. Let me see if I can read it. I have to use a magnifying glass. He and a friend around the mid-90s, this guy, John, and a friend were writing, I'll just try to tell the story rather than read it. He and a friend were writing a script together, and he'd been in LA since 1984, and this is like probably 1995. He and a friend were writing a script about tornadoes, and they entitled their script Twister, but they decided to change it. They were doing a lot of scientific research on tornadoes, and they decided to change their script to the title F6. And they really thought they had something, and so they started shopping it around to agents, and they actually sent it to Michael Crichton's agent. And they were immediately turned down, but they shopped it around to some more agents, and they finally found one who really liked it, and they did a kind of blitz on it and sent it to a bunch of different producers and directors all at one time, and apparently Sam Raimi was interested in it, and they were really excited, and then right as they thought they had their big break, Steven Spielberg's people had seen it and put a hold on it, and it turned out the reason they put a hold on it and stopped everything was because they were already producing a script called Twister, written by Michael Crichton and his wife. So that I thought was a little too perfect for me to pass up, that Mr. John Huckert had his probably 100th swing and a miss in Hollywood in over a decade, and I was reading about it right when Bill was talking about Twister and Michael Crichton and his wife. So couldn't pass that up, and that'll be my submission for this round. And this book is pretty good. It's a small run publication book, about 2010 and this guy's life trying to make it in Hollywood. He's been at it for 40 years, and he's done this and that and the other, and still technically hasn't made it. And it's a really good story. But that was too good to pass up. NV5F.
Node 48902. Timeout.
Thank you, Virginia. That was really interesting. All right, next, AG5PM. Rich, go ahead.
All right, well, this is a fascinating discussion. First, I have to say, Twisters is my favorite movie. I know that's weird. I watch it all the time, especially during thunderstorms, and I have a subwoofer and all this stuff going on. I really like that movie. Anyway, Jack Palance, I've seen a bunch of his movies. He's only got 2 speeds, right? On and off. So he there's no acting style. Jack Palance has one vibe going on. So I'm going to have to say to Bill, I haven't seen him, but I'm going to say probably the script because, he just reads the script. His vibe. But that's part of his coolness, I guess. I don't know. It looked like all of them were reading the script. It was kind of interesting because, I recognized some of these people, and there was no sense of urgency, for example, during the fact that the cargo ship's going to crash into their capital city, right? None. They kind of, it's going to crash. They're talking to the robot. You can see that. So whatever the characterization was, these folks weren't, I don't know, they weren't really in the moment, and they could have been. It could have been a little more, I don't know, interesting. But I'll also say, Tom had a note I should have mentioned before. That was my era, so I grew up during those things, and I would have been sufficiently entertained watching. In fact, I'm going to go back and watch this crazy show. The only reason I stopped watching it was because my wife had come home and I needed to go attend to some things for her. But I'm going to go back and watch it because I love Jack Palance, and I can suspend disbelief and put myself back to the time when I was 18, 19 years old and disregard logic and all my extra scientific training after I went to school and all that, and be entertained by that corny show with robots and explosions and stuff. So I got to go back and see it. I mean, I'm intrigued. The fact that it stinks so bad makes me want to watch it more. AG 5 p.m. Back to net.
Alrighty, thank you. Next, KG5BZW. Jay, go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. I'm not sure I have much to say. I will say, if it hadn't been for Jack Palance in this movie and, what he, brings to his roles, I probably wouldn't have even seen the parts I did see before tonight. It's overall pretty silly and I mean, there's Jack Palance and there's everyone else. There wasn't much I can't recall other than that. I mean, okay, the lady was pretty. Okay, so there was resistance. I don't know. I'm forgetting stuff, so I can't really comment on everything. But as far as acting goes, that's all I remember. Jack Palance, everybody else. So anyway, I'll hand it to the next person. KG5BZW.
W5BLT. Tell us your thoughts on characterization.
Well, I thought the characters were great. Think about this. Nikki, who was leading the resistance, Bill was making the comment that she's running around in high heels leading this resistance. When she got overthrown as the governor, you just have to leave with the clothes on your back and the shoes on your feet and lead a resistance. And she was trying to lead this resistance against him. Obviously, everybody was very concerned about her. And she must have done a really good job building the planet and everything. All the, and this special drug they had for the Q or whatever they called it. And that's kind of a lesson for us. We need to make sure we manufacture all the medicines and stuff we need here, right? So kind of had that going for it. You had Kim, the other lady in the movie, and it was just interesting because even being blind, I could hear the joy in her voice when the robot turned good and came back to life, and just followed her around like a little puppy dog. And then, of course, you had the dad that sacrificed himself with the radiation. Obviously, there must have been a shortage on this drug. It must be, the supply ships weren't coming to the moon, or they didn't really import this drug in plentiful supplies. And so, of course, you have the bad guy leader, typical. I took this movie more, it kind of reminded me of the Flash Gordon. I think Ming the Merciless was what either Bill was thinking about. It was campy, So, and like I said, the BLT, what's not to like about that? I mean, the robot Sparks, that was, my favorite character. The kids, it was really interesting because they obviously survived these wars with the robot wars, and maybe the robots were launching nukes and trying to destroy the humans or something, but the kids really didn't have any lines. The movie, if they made a 2-hour movie, maybe we could explore some relational things more with the characters, because you really didn't get to know these kids, but obviously they were somehow surviving but very sick, and I think there were some animals on the planet, or birds or something, chirping, but different parts of it had radiation, and obviously these kids were living in a part that had higher radiation. I think they were going to try to head back and divide some of that drug between the people on the moon and Earth. But yeah, they didn't really figure out, like, can we manufacture this somewhere else? So I don't know what they're going to do. But it was kind of a quick ending, so maybe they ran out of money to really finish and put the thing together. But yeah, I like the robot, the 2 women in the movie, the dad that was sacrificing himself. I thought everybody did a good job on the characters. Sure, the plot you couldn't really take seriously. But anyway, that's all I got. W5.
902.
Bye. It's hard to say. You can let us tomatoes a little easier, but I'm going to stick with this one for the movie nut. Back to you, Brenda. Thanks.
Thank you. K5ICX Thomas, tell us what you think about characterization.
Was there any characterization in this film? Ugh. Now, Jack Palance plays Jack Palance, and he does a very good Jack Palance, let's face it. But if you want to see him in something that's quite entertaining with Jack playing Jack in a way that you can appreciate, watch him in Baghdad Cafe. I think that came out in something. He's quite good in that. It's an art house film, but it's an entertaining movie if you get a chance to watch it. He plays kind of a hippie character in that. He plays a hippie Jack Palance in that, but it's quite good. But I've always enjoyed him in anything he does. Barry Morris plays Barry Morris in everything that he does, but he does it very well. And he's the one actor in this that actually seems to play his character more naturally, except for that time when Jack, as Olmes, puts on his little blender hat thing and then tries to kill Barry, and then as Dr. Cobble, and then he spins around and dies, and blood comes out of his ears or whatever that stuff was. Which was a bit ridiculous, but everything else looked okay. Got to give him credit. He got hooked up in that. I think there was some sort of connection with Space 1999. Sylvia Anderson was involved, I think. Is that what her name is? Yeah, Sylvia Anderson was from Space 1999, and he got roped into it. She walked after she found out that there was no money to be made or available for this film, and so Barry Morris stuck with it. He had his contract and continued. So he got that. And his character is somewhat convincing overall, even with the terrible dialogue. Now, John Ireland was in it as Senator Smedley. Remember the dog Smedley that used to snicker on the cartoon show, whatever that was? Smedley, I think, was the name of the character. So it's very hard not to think of Senator Smedley as that laughing dog. But Ireland had done a lot of good stuff through the years, and some bad stuff too. He's a Canadian-American actor. I guess everybody had to be Canadian to be in this thing. But he was in all sorts of really good movies. All the King's Men. Spartacus is probably what he's best known for. One of my favorites, 55 Days at Peking, Fall of the Roman Empire, all sorts of A-list stuff, and then he plays this dumb Senator Smedley. Oh well, what can you say? Other characters, less roles, but you had John Ireland, Jack Palance, Barry Morris in this thing, and a terrible script, and terrible characters created from those scripts. What a waste of talent. Oh, man. And I'll give them credit. They tried to make something out of nothing, and they still ended up with nothing. Sparks the robot. Usually we say the robots have the non-human characters are always the most endearing. Not in this film. Sparks was annoying. I would have loved to have seen him blown out into deep space, never to be seen again. His big, bulbous cardboard body rotating forever in space in the cold darkness of space. Wouldn't that have been great? Oh well. Everyone else played really boring, dumb, one-dimensional characters with monotone voices. The acting was pretty bad from everybody else, which made it even worse. What else can I say? Oh, the children. Think of the children. We had to get them, they had nothing to say, but their acting was on par with everybody that wasn't an A-list actor in this thing. So, what do you want? Oh, well, what can you say? I guess that's all I've got to say, because I didn't care about any of the characters. In fact, I was rooting for hopeful that they would all die, but somehow they survived. Back to you, Brenda, KE5, ICX.
This is B5 Ozell. I'm sorry. I was hoping they would all die. You can't steal my thunder. I guess it's my turn. Yeah, the children were annoying. It's like, what's these kids just... Why were they wearing those ghillie suits and lurking? Didn't they have something to do? Like find something to eat or find a place to sleep out of the weather or, find some water? It was really stupid. They just kind of stuck them in there sort of like an afterthought without really thinking about how it plays into the plot at all. And they were annoying. The robot Sparks was annoying. I think if you had something like that could, transport around, it would probably transport into the middle of the desk, and then that's into him, or at the end of the desk. It's like the idea with time travel. How do you not end up inside a mountain? And what was up with those little T-Rex arms he had? He really was limited in what he could do with his little pinchers that could just push a button. He didn't have opposable thumbs. I think they could have articulated his hands a little better than that, and arms. But they didn't, and it was annoying. Oh, let's see. And a lot of the characters were annoying. They were too gung-ho, and they spent way too much time on their hair, obviously. Very impractical, tight suits. I didn't find the costumes to be all that attractive. Obviously, they were saying, hey, let's make something that looks like it came from space, which they did, but how could you work in something like that? I don't know. All right, I think we have beat that to death already. So, do we have any more check-ins? All right, well, it's 11:47. We still have some time left. So let's go around again. Well, we don't need to go around. Just check in with your call sign if you have something else to say about special effects, music, anything, or revisit some other topic. So please come now and give me your call sign.
N5 BB.
Whiskey 5, BLT.
KE5ICX.
All right, inside BB. Bill, go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. Inside BB. Well, let's talk about production values / special effects. Number one, do we have to repeat it again? There is no sound in space. The spacecraft doesn't rumble as it's moving. If you're looking at it outside the spacecraft, you don't hear anything. Okay? I don't know how many times we have to repeat that, but they keep on putting sound in those big things. The other thing is all of the controls on these control boards were very 70s. They didn't make any effort, as far as I could see, to do anything that looked like it was from even 1980, even a year later. No. It was completely old existing technology. The buttons they had, except for the destruct button that I believe was round, the other buttons were square, standard buttons. I was working on a project at a company, an engineer designing something, and we were going to buy some buttons just nearly identical to those, so with lights in them. So they were off-the-shelf, standard stuff. They didn't have to fabricate anything special. It was completely standard. There was nothing about new technology with all the controls. They had a joystick. Oh boy, a joystick that look like an aircraft. Nothing new for moving the craft into hyperspace or whatever it was. All the display terminals were old cathode ray tube terminals, one color, like black and white, with very low resolution and displaying stupid stuff. No graphics, no anything else. They didn't try to do anything special there. They just used off-the-shelf, standard mid-70s stuff. Stuff, when I got out of college in '76, was sitting on the desks and things. Nothing special. Same thing for the other, designs of things inside the spacecraft and on the moon. There's nothing that looked special, really. Nothing new, special, just standard, generic spacecraft and lunar-based design things you might have imagined. So, also, they had these horrible plot points similar to James Bond movies and other silly movies where somebody, the bad guy, pushes a button and the whole thing is going to destruct in like 10 minutes. What are these countdown things? I'm sorry, stupid. So early in the movie, when the craft is going to crash in, what did they come on and say? It's going to evacuate in 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Late in the movie, he pushes the destruct button, and then they ask him, how long will it take? Number one, he shouldn't have answered. He should have said 24 hours. But no, he said about 10 minutes. Somebody's going crazy. It's going to destruct in 10 minutes. And there's one button that's going to tear the whole planet apart in 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's no science in that. So again, these special effects and these plot points they had nothing to do with reality. And they've been used in other movies, and why do all these people push the button and say it'll destruct in 10 minutes? Everybody else has done that. Why do it again? Let's see, this is N5BB. And one thing that Virginia said, she was talking about a bad death. Yes, there was a point in the movie where they did something which I thought was over the top. They had a robot pick up a large rock, go over, and repeatedly dash it into somebody's head, over and over and over again. And I thought that was just way over the top and gratuitous violence that was just crazy. A lot of the other fighting was silly. They were fighting with some kind of metal sticks things, and when they touched the robots, there were sparks that came off. Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't very interesting either, and the special effects weren't very interesting. That's the whole point. Who cares about believability? They just weren't even interesting, much less believable. What else can I think about production base? There was some music. Some parts it wasn't too bad. Other parts they put in some melodramatic kind of thing that was a little over the top. It was not distracting music, I don't think. I don't think it added much, but it was kind of par for the course, probably. The movie was shot reasonably well. Nearly all the scenes were pretty well lit and you could hear the actors pretty well. And, they seemed to do the basic directing, getting people around and showing the action. That was okay. I just didn't like the screenplay and the way the director got to use that screenplay to make the actors do such stupid things. And again, I'll repeat, why was that stupid spacecraft so huge when you never saw hardly any people? And remember, all the people they had on it were in that little saucer thing up front, and there were only a few people. Oh, by the way, one more stupid thing. When they're in that little saucer spacecraft or anywhere else, and they have a seatbelt on, they're not even crossing seatbelts. They're harnesses. They're very minimal. And at one point, when they're shaking around in that spacecraft, they seem to fall out of their seats, which just shows you how the harnesses were completely unreliable. And I thought that was also a very weird scene. They fell out of their seats, and then they were kind of simulating them floating around in no gravity or something. I don't know, poorly done. By the way, this is in 5BB. The only movie made back in the 60s that had some kind of thing like a countdown thing, something that was slowly, methodically going to end, that made sense, was 2001, with the Hal singing Daisy, Daisy, and then slowly, methodically shutting him down with some modernistic kind of technology. It was the whole idea and the execution of that I liked. I thought it was not speeded up. It was slow because it was supposed to occur in that speed. All these other movies with a destruct button and warning lights and self-destruct in 8 minutes are stupid. You can take it from Bill. I think that's all I got. I'm talked out. N5BB. Good night. And Happy New Year.
Okay, W5BLT. Go ahead, Bill.
Wait. Okay, a couple things. I think the ending that Tom is looking for is on the extended version, the director's cut on the DVD that's going to come out maybe. The music on this, I just couldn't resist. The music on this was not real memorable, but every once in a while I thought I was detecting like the first couple notes of a Star Trek or Star Wars music, and then they threw in like some real weird off note, so it wasn't copying it. It was interesting music. The little laser pistols they had, I thought those were laser pistols when they were battling, but maybe that was the thing they hit the robots with, but they made this kind of puny laser sound. And so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, without the drug, we didn't get to see the ending, but I don't think it's very long for these people without that drug. And the other thing, too, with the radiation, if they were having nuclear bombs going off, I would have thought some of this electronic equipment would have been damaged. Like, how is that working? And then the countdown, the one thing that, as Bill was talking, that I thought they did well for a countdown, was the Star Wars with the ships approaching the rebel base and will be in range in 30 minutes. That was kind of a cool countdown that was well done. And then I liked the Star Trek in this Search for Spock, where they destroy the Enterprise and the Klingons are there, and there's a countdown. But yeah, those are the two that I really like. The others are kind of, it's not real good. That's all I got. I'll just say it one last time. W5, bi-locational transference. Back to you, Brenda.
Good morning. The time is 12 a.m.
Alrighty, and wrap it up. KE5ICX. You can give us your thoughts and also talk about next week.
Well, thank you, Brenda. Thanks for doing the net this evening. Yes, I was just going to say one thing about the music. They seem to be particularly fond of the theme. It actually wasn't too bad. Wasn't great, wasn't bad. Not exactly what I would call super memorable, but they played it so often in the movie, it kind of got burned in my brain. Until today, I managed to stop remembering it, which is good. Okay, that's it there. Next week's movie is called Mission Stardust from 1967. A team of astronauts is sent to the moon to rescue an alien who is seeking the help to save her dying race. They are attacked by a force of bandit robots and discover the enemy spies are out to kill the alien. That's next week's movie, Mission Stardust from 1967. KE5ICX.
All right, thanks to everybody who participated tonight. So we're going to close the net. This is WB5OZL Clear.